Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strike Zone with manager George Samus. Strike Zone is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the St. Paul manager questions about the Saints, baseball or sports in general, or just seek George's wisdom about life or whatever issues may be affecting you these days. We're going to continue this program again heading through the off-season into next season's American Association campaign, so this will be a week back at the weekly program that we have going on. So we just want to let you know about that as George talks to us this week a little bit about what's going on in Major League Baseball, his impressions of the NFL season so far, and just a few other questions George answers for us about life issues that people wanted to pose to him this week. So let's get right to Strike Zone. So we want to welcome back manager Kevin Hooper. So Kevin, first of all, let's just talk about things that are going on with the team in terms of team updates and roster moves, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a whole lot going on this time of year. It's kind of a little bit of downtime once the season ends, and actually Josh, our general manager, Josh Robertson, and I get a little time. We just take a little time to breathe and get away from it for a little bit. I typically never get away from it. I'm thinking about it every day of what the future holds, but try to get away from it a little bit. Don't make a whole lot of moves. Typically this first month after the season, we actually received Jeff Shields in a trade from St. Paul to complete the David Espinosa trade. So that was a big arm that we got that more than likely will be in our rotation next year. Another quality starting pitcher who went 13-2 this year. So that's obviously some big news on our end. And other than that, though, not a whole lot going on. Just kind of still going over some season-ending stuff. And Josh and I will sit down and talk here soon enough about starting to make some moves.
Well, I would think with John Link returning, Tim Brown, and if Scott Richmond returned, that's four pretty serious 10-game winners right there. And
that would be a fierce rotation for sure.
Wow, that's going to be extremely tough for sure. We have a group of fan questions this week, so we'll first of all start out with the Major League Baseball playoffs heading into here. So the first person is Taylor from Wichita would like, who do you think has the best chance of winning the World Series this year?
I don't know if I could give a percentage of who I think has the best. As I always say, you get to the postseason, everybody has a chance. So that's what's always fun about postseason in any sport, but especially baseball. You know, if you listen to the movie Back to the Future, they predicted, I don't know if you knew this or not, I'm sure you've heard, but they predicted the Chicago Cubs to win the World Series in 2015. So that's kind of something interesting that I heard the last couple of days. So, you know, they've got a big wild card game coming up that they got to get through. But, you know, as I've stated before on the show, it'd be neat to get the Cubs in and into the postseason because seeing postseason baseball in Wrigley Field is pretty special, I believe. But, you know, the winner of the Cubs-Pirates, that wild card has to match up with St. Louis, which is always a tough feat. So, you know, it should be an interesting – the Blue Jays have an incredible lineup. You know, I think offensively – it's arguably one of the better teams left, and then the Dodgers with their pitching. It's always a toss-up, I do believe. And then the Royals, you know, the Royals have been playing really well. They're going to have home field throughout the American League side of things. So, you know, it's tough to bet against the Cubs, I guess, since the movie Back to the Future predicted that. But, you know, I just hope it's fun, good baseball to watch, and honestly, I don't think I could even pick a winner right now.
You know, I think the fun part about it is that in the American League, I think most people expect that it'll be Toronto or Kansas City. But in the National League, any one of those five teams could easily take that, I would think.
I agree, especially the way the Mets have played throughout the year. They've really played as a team, and it's going to be fun. Like I said, it all starts tomorrow night, and looking forward to those two wild card games the next 2 nights.
Mike from Wichita would like to know from you, what do you think happened to the Tigers this season? And they seem to be a good team that still didn't put it together here.
Yeah, I know we talked about that earlier in the year, too, just because of my past in Detroit and what's going on there. I don't know. I don't know what happened. You know, there's a lot of expectations, kind of like the Nationals. You know, the Nationals were predicted to win the World Series with the pitching they had and the lineup and whatnot. But I'm sure as you heard today, Matt Williams got fired. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what they decide with Osmus. And, you know, a lot of rumors floating around all the time with that. I don't know. Sometimes you can put the best talent together and still not win, and that's just a classic case of that happening in Detroit this year.
You know, I think the Tigers' perfect manager candidate is this guy in Wichita that I know really well. Be a good fit there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it.
Davis from Emporium would like to know, I don't really understand why teams no longer use just 3 pitchers in the rotation in the playoffs. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think that that just goes with the manager, and the decisions they make. Because what is it? When in a 7-game set, do they go? Well, how's the setup now? They go. What is it? 2, 3, and 2? Is that what they go?
I think it's for the league championship series is still 2-2-1-1-1, but the World Series is the 2-3-2. 2-3-2.
So you're looking at you playing 2, then you're getting an off day, right? And then you're playing 2 more. So the guy that throws game 1 would throw again game 4 if you use 3 starters, but you're really only giving him 3 days rest.
Correct.
So he would be throwing on short rest. So I think that's probably why you don't see the 3-man anymore. You see a 4-man, just because of the off days and having to throw a guy on short rest. So if I had to answer that question, that's the answer I've got for you, Davis. But if you had a guy who could bounce back and he's racing, at the tail end of a series, I think you could maybe see it more often than its beginning, where you might bring a guy back on short rest to finish things out if you got to a Game 7 type deal.
I think the last rotation that did that was the 2002 Arizona Diamondbacks in the World Series, Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys were just 250 inning guys a year. So
right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and now, so there you go. That's 13 years ago, and now just the way things have changed with taking care of guys' arms and the innings limits, especially a guy coming off injury. A lot of things have changed throughout the times.
Our next question comes from Harold from Wichita. He would like to know what you thought about the USA Today article that found that 87% of incidences where a player charged a mound, it was between 2 players of different races.
It's interesting, Harold. I had not seen that until I read the question. And that's crazy. I would never even have thought of that. It's interesting. It's an interesting topic. I have not even read the article yet. I'm going to plan on, once we get through this interview, I'm going to go sit down and read it. Have you read it, Robert?
I did. It was on last Thursday's USA Today, I believe.
Okay.
That they had looked at since 2005, I believe, and I think the inclination, and I understand that the race part of it, they always want to kind of hype up, but I was understanding part of it was the big deal about Latin-born players and how they learned to play baseball growing up versus how American players learned to play baseball growing up. And so the flipping of the bat and things like that become a big deal.
Yeah. And when I read the question, that's what came to my head was the Latins. And that's true. Just the way that I think it's a little showmanship that they have, a little, and you don't want to give them a bad rap either, because they're not all that way. It's just like anything else in this world. A lot of times a certain race or some, occupation might get a bad rap because of those few that make them look bad. It's not always going to be the case, but that's definitely that's a big percent. And that's interesting, looking at it that way. But as you said, there's a lot of flair, I think, with the Latin guys at times, certain Latin guys. And, here in the States, as you stated too, the flipping of the bat, and, just the antics, as I call them. They get out of hand sometimes, and some guys take that to heart and don't agree with it and try to take it into their own hands.
I would think that, like, an American basketball player playing in Europe might face some of those same kind of, because we're a little bit more flamboyant about our basketball than they are in Europe. And
absolutely. So probably a good comparison.
So it might get the same kind of thing there. Doug from Wichita would like to know from you, he saw that they are talking about changing some rules in Major League Baseball to speed up games. This is really scary, to be honest with you. That includes making pitchers face at least 2 batters when they come into a game. You hate the international rules, so you have to hate this idea.
Oh, another good one, Doug. We got some good ones tonight. No, that's interesting, and you're right on with that. especially being a manager, because I'm a matchup guy. If I got a lefty coming up that's a big out in the 7th inning, and then a righty behind him, my lefty's probably coming in to face one guy, and I'm bringing a righty in behind him. So, no, I get speeding up, but that's, once again, trying to reinvent the wheel as far as I'm concerned. That's part of the gamemanship, and just kind of the strategy that goes along with the game that you're trying to take away.
And then why even have specialists, I would think, at that point?
Exactly, right, exactly. You better hope there's 2 lefties in a row somewhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And teams are building their lineup to specifically cater to that, so it's kind of like a silly rule idea. But
yeah, so let's hope that that one doesn't go through. And speaking of the international rule, Doug, we should know the fate of that here in the next couple of days, because our owners' meetings start tomorrow. So next week we should have an update and a final decision on whether we're going to continue that rule or not. Okay. Hopefully I have great news.
We'll know if we have a happy Kevin Hooper next week or not.
Yes, exactly.
Doug would also like to know, do you really think that baseball games need to be sped up?
I don't. But I'm a baseball guy, thick and thin, and, the game's the game. And I know times change, and we make adjustments as time changes, but like the question before, you got to face at least 2 batters. That's just trying to do too much as far as I'm concerned, and taking away from the game a little bit.
We have a few people that have questions for you about the Wingnuts themselves. Henry, first of all, would like to know, are there players that you are targeting in terms of free agents for your team this season?
Yeah, there's always guys that I have my eyes on. A lot of this, we just got an email the other day of guys who played out their option. There's about 8 guys in our league that played out their option, so they become free agents. A lot of the stuff doesn't start happening here, like I said, for a couple months or so, when you get some releases from affiliated teams, where there's maybe some Atlantic League guys that are wanting to change scenery, and maybe come over to the American Association. So, not a ton of stuff going on, as I stated earlier in the interview, but it'll start picking up here as this off season gets going. But always guys on my list, that via free agent or via trade maybe that I'm going to be interested in.
Callie from Salina would like to know, it's kind of fitting in what you were just talking about, when are the best times to find players available for signing?
I don't think there's really a best time. I think a lot of it for me in my situation, I'm building the teams right place, right time. Just using all my connections. My phone rings a lot, or get an email or a text about a guy who's available that's interested maybe in coming to Wichita. Or a guy that's just available, and we might be up against multiple teams, and, you just try to give them their sales pitch and try to tell them to do their homework about places to play before they make a decision, and hope that you're fortunate enough where they end up coming to Wichita to put this uniform on.
Craig would like to know from you, are there players that will be back with you for next season?
Yeah, there's some. Yeah, there's definitely some that we have plans and intentions on bringing back for sure. As I stated last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, but there's quite a few on the pitching side of things. There's going to be quite a few guys I'm hoping that we bring back. It's still, a lot of it's going to be determined on retirement, whether a lot of these guys are going to continue to play or not, some of the older guys especially. And, a lot of it just determines on what you find free agency-wise or trade-wise, and what fits for your roster. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that determine who's going to come back for next year. But, yeah, I do see a decent amount of guys coming back for next year.
Todd from Hendersonville would like to know, he's curious if there are stats that you actually care about in terms of your team's performance.
Yeah, I'm guessing, Todd's talking about during the season.
Yeah, I would assume so too.
I'm one of the first things I look at is where we're at defensively. That's a big deal to me, and we were a lot lower this year than we typically are, or where I care to be. But because especially defensively, that kind of leads to 2 categories as far as I'm concerned. It's going to lead to a lot of your pitching side of things. Also with your pitching stats. So I'm a very defensive-minded guy. Batting average, I believe, is one of the most overrated things in the game. Guys get so caught up in batting average, where I'm a quality at-bat guy. We do quality plate appearance, quality at-bat, QAB, QPAs is what we do, and we keep track of throughout games. We add those up every 25 games. So quarterly we'll do that, add those up, and reward a winner who was the best in those QPAs every 25 games. But, for me, I think the biggest stat that I actually really care about and look at in our team's performance is the win column, because that's what it's all about, winning every night.
Under the defensive category, I'm just kind of curious from you. Are you looking at like your fielding percentage, double plays turn? I mean, what really stands out to you personally?
Yeah, kind of all of it. But fielding percentage is going to be the big one. Obviously your errors, how many errors you're making, and what your fielding percentage is. Honestly, fielding percentage, that's a big number, but I'm always curious in our errors. How many errors are we making? How many double plays are we turning? That type of deal.
Do you find then? Yeah. Okay, so let's take like the middle infielders that you ended with this season, Leo Vargas and Taylor Smart. Both of them had incredible range. So do you then kind of consider the fact that if, let's say, they made a few more errors than maybe you would have liked, but if they're reaching a lot more balls, is that kind of calculated into what you're looking at?
Absolutely, and it's funny you said that because I always had that brought up when I played. I didn't make a ton of errors in my career, and a lot of people always want to talk about how amazing it was just because I had really good range and I'd get to so many balls that other guys would, and still my errors were always down. So that's definitely has a lot to do with a lot of things, and you take all that stuff into consideration. And with those two guys, they're youth, you bring that into consideration too, where they probably are going to make just a few more basic mistakes than your older guys. Another thing I look at a lot is like Nestor and our catchers are caught stealing percentage. That's a big deal because if we can shut the running game down, we're going to give ourselves a good chance.
Absolutely. Our next question is, what are your thoughts on the NFL season so far this season?
It's been kind of a busy time for me. I told my wife I haven't really gotten to sit down and watch a full Sunday of football yet. So this coming Sunday should be my first one where I really get to sit down and bear down on it. But I've been keeping track. Obviously, my Chiefs have struggled to start so far, but there's some surprises. You look at what Carolina and Atlanta are doing. Both of them being 4-0 is a surprise to a lot of people, I think. And there's always some surprises and whatnot of teams maybe that come out on fire, and then teams that start off not so hot that aren't playing real well. So always a fun time of year for me because I'm a big football fan. But like I said, starting this next week, I'll probably try to be able to keep a little more track. Softball's been keeping me pretty busy right now.
Sam from Topeka would like to know from you, why do you think the Chiefs have been playing so poorly this season, and do you think they can turn it around?
I hope they can turn it around. I'm not sure, Sam, what the special, what's the word I'm looking for, what the answer is going to be for them to turn it around. They're, I don't know if you remember, they lost that real tough one where 30 seconds left and they try to run one more play with Jamal and he ends up fumbling and they run it to the house to score a touchdown and the game ends. That was definitely a tough loss. And, they just haven't been clicking real well right now. And you hope they can turn it around. I don't know what the magic recipe is going to be to do that. But obviously, me being, I'm not a fair weather guy. I'm a Chiefs fan, thick and thin, good or bad. And like you said, I don't know. I think when you look at a team playing poorly, you got to look at all aspects. They haven't been doing a whole lot that well. So you got to look at all aspects of their game and hope they can turn some of those areas around. And it doesn't have to be all of them. You just got to do a couple of things well. And I don't think they've done a whole lot well so far. And I don't know if they're going to be able to turn around or not because they haven't looked that great so far. But, hey, I'm a believer and I'll hope for the best.
Long season left.
That's right. Not how you start, how you finish.
That's
so
right.
We'll see.
Right. David from Butler would like to know from you, do you think that Tony Romo is the most overrated quarterback in the league?
Oh, man. That's a toughie. I don't know if I would say the most overrated. He really hasn't gotten a whole lot done in the postseason and whatnot. That's a tough question. I would think maybe he is a little overrated, but, everybody's going to have their opinion on everybody, as I always say. And I think David, with that question, thinks that Tony Romo's the most overrated quarterback in the league, I'm guessing.
Great.
So, I'm not sure, David. That's a good question. But I know he's not doing a whole lot right now, sitting on the sideline, and I heard again last night that he's not going to be able to come back till at least week 11.
Wow.
So he's got a lot of watching to do this year, and I don't know if there's really even a question in that right now, because we can't answer that question because he's not even out there playing. But, I know a lot of people talk about Tony and him being overrated. And, you see he does a pretty good job during the regular season. It seems like a lot of people and a lot of teams, and they get to the postseason and stuff a little bit.
I just want to make a comment for David, too, that if you're looking for someone to be incredibly harsh or speak badly about a professional athlete, Kevin Hooper is not the guy at the top of that list who's going to do so.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, well, and I'm a realist, and I understand. You hear a lot of those stories of the fans, and it's not easy. Me having been a professional athlete and playing at the highest level of my sport, I just understand how hard it is and how hard it is to be a professional athlete. As I always say, it's easy to criticize. It's easy to criticize athletes and be like, man, he's terrible or whatnot. But, he's the one that's playing on TV every Sunday, not us, and it takes a special talent to be even reach that level, and I'm real about all that. Know that how hard it is to reach the highest level at any sport. Those guys are special. No matter how good or how bad they are, they're pretty special in their right mind, and to be able to put that uniform on at that level.
Maybe playing in the toughest market for football in this country, too.
Oh, no doubt. No, and, anything they do is always, like you said, the toughest market. They're going to be criticized. He's going to be criticized no matter, how good. He could be great for 3 games and have a poor one, and people are going to talk bad about him. That's just how sports work and how our world is.
We have a few life questions for you to finish out the show. The first one is Claudia asks, when would you let your own kids have their own cell phone? I guess that's age she's asking.
Well, I was wondering when I saw the name if it was my mother asking the question. My mom's name is Claudia. But she lives in Lawrence, so unless she's trying to disguise the town she's in. But, that's a tough question. And, my oldest daughter's 10 now, and my wife and I have spoken about that. To me, I think it's just situational for me. Like if my child, maybe we lived out in the country and she rode a bus, and I always wanted to know, where now we get to pick her up or someone else in our family's picking her up. But if there's a different situation, you put yourself in other people's shoes at times. And, for me and my daughter, when she gets a phone, it's going to be for specific reasons. It's going to be to call mom or dad when she needs mom or dad, or a situation like that where I need to know where she's at, or I need to know if she's made it somewhere, something like that. So I don't know if there's a specific age. I just think that that's more circumstantial than age, and kind of a comfort thing for the parents and a comfort thing for the child, because my daughter's 10 and I know she wants a cell phone, but in Daddy's eyes, that's not going to be happening anytime soon.
Yeah, they all think they're old enough, don't they?
Exactly, especially as we know, and we talk about, you and I, technology these days. It's just crazy. So, but like I said, when she gets one, it's going to be for specific reasons, and I think it's just going to depend on, like I said, situational stuff.
Probably by the time your daughter is having daughters, they'll be coming out with rate plans out of the womb.
No doubt. No doubt.
Our next question asks, there seems to be so many negative things going on in the world these days, shootings, bombings, refugees. Kevin, just give us some good news.
Yeah, I know how this works here, and it's unfortunate, a lot of stuff that goes on in our world, in our society, and it's sad stuff. Honestly, it's gotten to the point for me, I don't watch a whole lot of news because of it. Seems every time you turn it on, something's bad happening in our world, and it's just sad. It's a sad state of affairs, and me, my answer is going to be something positive, and I I thank the good Lord that I woke up this morning and am able to breathe and live a happy life and have great health. And I know many others don't have that, and I'm thankful that I have that. And like I said, I'm very blessed and humbled to be in the situation I'm in and be able to do what I do and to be able to touch lives the way I'm able to touch lives because of the situation I am in. And, you know, that's just my advice to everybody. You know, make a difference in the world one way or another, any way you possibly can, and try to make it in a positive manner. Because if we could all do that, I think things would be a lot different. There's so much just negativity that goes on. And accountability, I think, is kind of gone in this day and age. Everybody wants to put the blame on somebody else, and everybody's getting fired up over something. And, you know, a lot of sad stuff that goes on in this world. And, you know, I just try to find the positive stuff and the best things I can, and try to pass that along to my children as well, and try to make the most out of every day and every opportunity I get. Because you never know. You never know what if tomorrow's even going to come, and I'm going to enjoy today. Because as they stated in this with the shootings and bombings, you never know when you're going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and, you know, a tragedy could happen.
Not a safe place out there these days, it seems like.
There really isn't. There really isn't. That's sad. It's you know, I talk to my wife all the time, and I'll hear something like that happened, something that goes on, and, you know, it opens your eyes. And I tell her I just sometimes wish the four of us could just go to a deserted island and just live there by ourselves with no one else around, you know, because and that's sad that it's gotten to that point at times, but that's how kind of bad it's gotten. And, you know, with technology and everything going the way it is, who knows if that's going to change anytime soon.
Well, you are absolutely right about that. And we don't mean to diminish the importance of those events out, but we always like to end the show with something that's kind of humorous, and this may be my favorite question we've ever been asked here. So
I know you're excited for this one.
Frustrated dad would like to know, my kid will run 90 feet to first base as hard as he can. He will run 100 yards too, barreling over 3 defenders to reach the end zone. He will run a mile on a scorching hot day in 5 minutes. Why can't I get him to get 5 feet to get me the remote?
That is a very, very humorous question. Arguably, as you stated, one of the best that we've maybe gotten all year long. So, and I love how we always save the best for last, or the most humorous one for last, I should say, because they're all great questions. And as you know, you and I appreciate them coming, and keep them coming, folks, because I love answering the questions in any way I possibly can. But frustrated dad. I'm not so sure how to answer that one. You know, I'm guessing you taught him how to run the 90 feet as hard as he can. I'm guessing you taught him how to barrel over 3 defenders to reach an end zone and run a mile on a scorching hot day. Sounds like he's pretty resilient. Well, he or she is pretty resilient. I'm guessing it's a he because of the football. But, you know, and then it sounds like you're just wanting to sit on the couch and sit back and relax, and instead of getting up and getting the remote, you want your all-American boy to get it to you, I guess. So it sounds like maybe just wanting to keep working while he's at home and you can sit back and enjoy. But that's a tough question, frustrated dad. That's a real tough one. Very humorous one, though. I enjoy the laugh that you gave Robert and I this week. But I wish you the best with that. I wish you the best. I'm not so sure I can give an answer, because I would probably just, if I wanted it that bad, I just have to get up and get it myself. But I do understand those days where we work really hard and we want to just sit back and relax and holler at the kid to throw us a remote, because trust me, I've been there and done it before as well.
I have to say that a frustrated dad, if you ever do figure out the solution to that, there's probably like 100 million American dads that want the answer.
Right. So please respond back if you do find the answer to that, because I would like to know as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you for joining us this week, Kevin.
All right, Robert. Thanks as always.
We want to thank George Sammis for joining us on Strike Zone this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Saints manager, please send them to us at AskGeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's AskGeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Once again, the program will be airing each week during the off-season, heading into next season's American Association campaign. So this is a great opportunity for you to learn what's going on with the Saints and just learn a little bit about what George has going on during the off season. I am Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report. I want to thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week on Strike Zone.